Hi, I'm Patty Osverick with Coaching for Inspiration with Patty. Today we're going to talk about healthy boundaries. Why have healthy boundaries? Boundaries is a subject that sometimes people feel very uncomfortable about. They don't know how to set them. They don't know how to put them into action. They've never had boundaries with certain people. There are some people in our lives that really overstep their boundaries with us. Could be a parent, could be your spouse. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it can be a coworker, it can be your boss. In our lives, we all have people that overstep their boundaries with us. Everybody's boundaries are different. Some things that are acceptable to some people are not acceptable to others. By communicating that gives the person an awareness of why they've crossed that boundary. When you don't communicate it, that boundary is going to be crossed and crossed and crossed, and you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get hurt, all of those things. So why should we talk to somebody about boundaries? Why should we put boundaries in place? There's all kinds of examples of why and why not. Every individual person is different. What might be acceptable to me may not be acceptable to somebody else. But I don't know that unless you tell me. That person doesn't know it unless you tell them. But saying it tactfully, respectfully, and being compassionate about how you set those boundaries is the key to keeping a healthy relationship. So let me ask you some questions to reflect on if you're thinking about setting some boundaries with somebody. First of all, what is the purpose of setting boundaries? What are you trying to achieve? What is your outcome for what you want when you talk to this person about what is acceptable to you and what is not acceptable? What are appropriate boundaries to you? What is not? What are the benefits of creating the boundaries? What happens if you don't? Are you willing to live with that? What if the person doesn't react the way you wanted them to react? How are you going to handle that? By setting the boundaries, people know what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And it's respect for both of you. When we set clear boundaries, everybody knows what they can and cannot say or do or ask. Boundaries are important in relationships. Say you have a spouse that you really don't like to go out to social events with because when you're out and about with that person, they're sarcastic about you, they talk rude to you, they embarrass you in front of other people, and it really, really hurts you, but you've never said anything. So that person thinks that behavior is acceptable. And it hurts you really deeply. If you don't communicate it, that behavior won't stop. And it's damaging your relationship with that person because you love that person and you want that person to love you back and respect you. And you feel that that's not being respectful. How would you approach that? Calmly. Give examples. Say, when you do this, this hurts me. If they love you and respect you, they'll really think about stopping, and they'll really try and change the behavior. And that's what you want to accomplish, because you don't treat them that way. You don't want to be treated that way. Say you have an in-law that is very demanding, doesn't think about your family and your situation. It's all about them. They want you to drop everything and come over immediately, or they put a guilt trip on you that you don't ever come over, and you don't want to hurt their feelings, and you don't want to hurt your spouse's feelings. How do you deal with that? You have to come up with an action plan, and you have to be honest with your spouse about how you're feeling, and you and your spouse need to come up with an action plan together. Because if the behavior continues, you become resentful, and you want a good relationship with your in-laws. They birthed your spouse or your partner, and you love them, and they did a good job, but there's certain things that they cross the line on, and everybody's raised differently, and some things are acceptable to them, and some things in your family is acceptable but not to them. So it's working out that balance and being respectful about it and not hurting somebody's feelings, but also coming up with an alternative of how to deal with that. So those are some steps that you can take for setting boundaries. It is difficult, but we live a much happier life when we're open and honest, and we don't take things personally, and we work towards a solution. The more that we harbor anger or we harbor resentment, and if it goes on for years and years, the harder it is to repair that damage. So think about a situation or a person that you feel has crossed boundaries with you, and come up with an action plan to have a healthy relationship and healthy boundaries with them. As always, please share if you think this is beneficial to others, and